The summer at Sunshine Acres was more than half over, and Jimmy, the farm boy, and Sophie, the city girl, had shared so many adventures together. But this morning, something very strange began to happen. Jimmy woke up early, as always, to tend the farm. But when he went outside, he gasped in shock. Every single plant, the vegetables, the flowers, even the old oak tree, was wilting. Not from lack of water or sunshine, but as if something was draining the very life from them. Sophie ran out in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. Sophie exclaimed, "What's happening to everything?" Grandmother came out, looking more worried than they'd ever seen her. Grandmother examined the plants carefully and said, "This isn't natural. It's not disease or drought. Something is wrong with the emotions of the world itself. Plants feel the emotional energy around them, and right now that energy is broken." Suddenly, a small glowing golden orb floated through the morning air and landed on the fence post. It took the shape of a tiny girl made of pure light and joy. It was Joy from the stories about emotions. But she wasn't smiling. Joy said seriously, "I'm Joy from headquarters where emotions live. We have a big problem. The garden of lost emotions where all forgotten and unexpressed feelings go is overflowing. When people don't express their emotions properly, those feelings get stuck there and cause problems in both our world and yours." Jimmy scratched his head. Jimmy asked, "The Garden of Lost Emotions? I've never heard of that place." Joy nodded gravely. "Most people haven't, but it's very real and it's in terrible trouble. We need your help. Will you come with me?" Jimmy and Sophie looked at each other, then at their Wilting farm, and said together, "We'll help." Joy created a shimmering doorway made of light, and they stepped through into the strangest place they'd ever seen. It looked like a garden. Everything was chaotic and wrong. Flowers made of red-hot anger grew thorns that shot sparks. Trees of deep blue sadness dripped with endless tears that formed puddles. Vines of purple fear wrapped around everything, squeezing and strangling. Bushes of green disgust smelled terrible and made them want to run away. As they walked carefully through this overwhelming garden, trying not to touch anything, they heard someone crying behind a bush of tangled worry weeds. They pushed through and found Sadness, the little blue emotion, sitting alone and sobbing with her face in her hands. Jimmy approached carefully and asked gently, "Sadness? Why are you crying here all alone?" Sadness looked up with tears streaming down her blue cheeks and replied, "I ran away from headquarters because everyone always wants joy, never me. Nobody likes being sad. I thought if I hid here where all the lost emotions go, no one would miss me. But now, I'm stuck and I can't find my way back. Everything here is so confusing and tangled." Sophie felt her own heart ache with sympathy. She sat down right next to Sadness in the mud and said kindly, "That's not true. Being sad isn't bad. Everyone needs to feel sad sometimes, when we lose something, when we're hurt, when we care deeply. Can we help you? But first, will you tell us about yourself? What does it feel like to be Sadness? And why are you important?" Even though they needed to move quickly to save the garden and the farm, Jimmy and Sophie spent time listening carefully to Sadness's story. They learned that sadness helps people heal after bad things happen, helps them appreciate happy times more and helps them connect with others who are hurting. As Sadness talked and felt heard, she began to glow brighter and brighter. Sadness stood up and said, "You have shown understanding, patience, and empathy. You have passed the challenge of listening. Take this blue crystal. It will show you the truth hidden inside any emotion." They thanked Sadness and continued through the chaotic garden. Soon they reached a massive wall made of frozen emotions, hard, cold, and solid. These were things people had felt but never said out loud, now frozen in time. Standing guard in front of the wall was fear, the purple emotion, trembling but trying his best to look brave. Fear called out in a shaky voice, "Who approaches the wall of unspoken words? To pass the challenge of courage, you must speak a difficult truth. You must say out loud an emotion you've been hiding. Jimmy, what feeling have you been keeping secret?" Jimmy felt his face turn hot and red. He looked at his boots and confessed, "I've been hiding that sometimes I feel really, really angry. Everyone thinks I'm always calm and happy and patient, but sometimes I get so mad at the chickens for making messes, at the weather for ruining crops, at myself for making mistakes. I'm scared that if I show my anger, Grandma and Sophie won't like me anymore. They'll think I'm a bad person." Fear stopped trembling for a moment and turned to Sophie with sympathetic, understanding eyes. "And you, Sophie, what have you been hiding?" Sophie's voice was barely a whisper, and a tear rolled down her cheek as she admitted, "I've been hiding that I feel lonely. Even back in the city with all those people, I felt alone. And I was scared to come to the farm because I thought I'd be even lonelier. I'm scared that if I tell people I'm lonely, they'll think something is wrong with me or that I'm weird, and nobody will want to be my friend." Because they spoke their hidden, secret feelings aloud with such honesty, the massive wall began to crack with loud sounds, like thunder. Pieces fell away, and soon there was a path through. Fear stopped trembling completely and stood up straight and tall. Fear said, "Speaking your deepest truth takes real courage. You've passed. Go forward." They climbed over the broken pieces of the wall and reached the very center of the garden, the heart chamber, where all emotions were supposed to flow freely and naturally in balance. But instead, it was blocked by a massive, impossible tangle of unexpressed feelings, twisted together like the world's most complicated knot. Anger was tangled with fear. Sadness was knotted with disgust, and joy was trapped in the middle. Standing in front of it, looking utterly exhausted and frustrated, was Disgust, the green emotion, trying desperately to untangle it with her bare hands. Disgust said tiredly, "I've been trying to fix this mess for days and days, but it's too big and too complicated for just one emotion to handle alone." Then joy reappeared, along with anger, red and fuming, fear and sadness. They all looked serious and worried. Joy said, "We need all emotions working together, but there's a serious problem. To untangle this mess and restore the garden to balance, someone needs to experience all these feelings at once. Joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust, all together in one moment. It's called the challenge of acceptance. It will be overwhelming, confusing, and very uncomfortable, but it's the only way to save the garden and your farm." Jimmy looked at the massive tangle, then at Sophie. Jimmy said, "I'll do it. I can handle it." Sophie shook her head firmly and said, "No, we'll do it together. Remember what we learned? feelings are easier when you share them with a friend. They held hands tightly and placed their free hands on the glowing tangle. Immediately, they were flooded with every emotion at once. Happiness so bright and overwhelming it almost hurt their hearts. Sadness so deep and heavy they wanted to cry and never stop. Anger that made their hands shake and their faces hot. Fear that made them want to run away and hide forever. Disgust at all the pain and unfairness in the world. It was overwhelming, confusing, powerful, and almost too much to bear. Tears rolled down their cheeks. They held on to each other and didn't let go. As they accepted and felt every single emotion fully without pushing any away, the tangle began to glow brighter and brighter with all the colors of the rainbow. Slowly, gently, like a flower blooming, it unraveled itself, releasing thousands and thousands of trapped feelings like beautiful, colorful butterflies into the air. The garden of lost emotions transformed into the garden of understood emotions. A beautiful, balanced, peaceful place where every feeling had its proper place and purpose. All 5 emotions from headquarters surrounded Jimmy and Sophie, glowing brilliantly and smiling. Joy said warmly, "You've shown incredible emotional strength. You've learned that true strength isn't about feeling only happy feelings. It's about accepting all your feelings, the comfortable ones and the uncomfortable ones. The garden is healed. The world is balanced again." In a warm, gentle flash of rainbow light, Jimmy and Sophie were returned to Sunshine Acres. Every single plant was blooming brilliantly and beautifully, more alive than ever before. The vegetables were plump, the flowers were radiant, and even the old oak tree had new leaves. That evening, they told Grandmother everything while sitting under that oak tree. Grandmother hugged them both and said, "Those feelings were difficult and scary to face, but what you learned about accepting all emotions, not just the happy ones, is the wisest lesson anyone can learn." Sophie looked out at the restored, thriving farm and whispered, "I used to think being happy all the time was the goal. Now I know that every feeling matters and has a purpose, even the scary or sad ones." Jimmy nodded and added, "And I learned that it's okay to feel angry or scared or lonely. Those feelings don't make me bad. They make me human." The emotions from headquarters sent them each a special seed that would grow into a flower matching their truest feelings. A flower that showed all colors, because people feel everything. That evening, as fireflies began to dance, they sat on the porch and Jimmy said, "This summer taught us so much." Sophie smiled and replied, "And the best part is, we learned it together." And so, their summer of magical adventures continued, and they were learning that understanding and accepting your emotions, all of them, makes you stronger, wiser, and kinder. And they all lived happily ever after. The end.